Hey all, and welcome back to Potantial Gaming and a new video on the channel going over a detailed Atlas strategy that I've been tweaking and testing over the last day or so. Now before you ask, the numbers presented on screen are not bait. I had one drop that was a 2 divine item, everything else is what you would expect from this strategy. I've attached some spreadsheets that show a selection of 20 maps that I ran and exactly how long they took, along with another spreadsheet containing details of every single item I picked up and what their value was at the time of recording. Now you need to consider the loot is probably actually more than what I've quoted on screen because Essences and Deli Orbs are pretty underpriced on POE Ninja. As mentioned, I had one big drop, which was an 9R Sacred Grove, but everything else is what you'd expect from a Deli, Altar and Essence farm. So before we jump into the loot and work out why this stuff is worth so much, let's just do a sample map and I'll talk you through the simple strategy. Now before we set off, I want to quickly talk about map sustain. I found it very hard to sustain my favourite map, even when I took all the map nodes on the tree, had all my favourite slots, chiseled out the map and took all the map nodes. Now this might have just been super bad at RNG because I've never had this problem in the past, but since all I care about is Deli Orbs and Essences, it doesn't matter that I even make the map rare. So I think it's better just to bulk buy your maps for 6C each and then just run them scoured. You'll die less, it'll be quicker, and it's just much more straightforward. Strand is still a fairly popular map, so you can buy them in bulk fairly easily. I've tested this in white maps as well, just running T3 stands, and the Deli Orbs and the Essences were about the same, so you can still make an absolute shed load of currency in scoured tier 3 maps. You obviously miss out on the altars and invitations though, so it is less currency. The one issue you might have here is if you can't sustain maps, are you going to be able to buy T3 strands? It's unlikely. However, you can horizon into them, and since you run in T3 maps, you could probably alch and chisel them and make them harder because the maps are going to be much easier. So you may be able to sustain if you chisel and alch. Maybe you need to horizon every 1 in 5 maps. It's just something to consider if you respec your tree, try red maps and you just can't do it. Don't just give up. I would try and go into a lower tier map, either T3s or stick a watchstone in and make it tier 8 or 9 or whatever it goes to. That's certainly an option. So we'll go and do a quick map showcase just to explain the strategy of it. It's super easy. So you just put in the map in, show next arc influence, and then you go and take the essence mod for 2C. If a delirium mirror turns up, you run it through it. You go through, kill the essences, get to 6 rewards before you kill the boss. When you kill the boss, you'll strike the 7th reward from the Atlas passives, and then that's it. You get out the map and you rinse and repeat. The way I've been doing these are about 2 to 2.5 minutes. What we'll do is just go and get one that's going to have a deli mirror just to make it a bit easier to showcase the strategy. You don't have to run them scoured. I just find it easy because the mobs, even with a half decent build, can be pretty hard when there's delirium in a full mod essence monster with maybe 7 essences in there. It can get pretty tough. So let's see if we can get a deli mirror this time. You've got basically a 3 in 4 chance of getting a deli mirror, so it will turn up in about 75% of your map. So if you don't get one here, we're pretty unlucky. We got one. Right, so the only thing you need to be careful of, if you get something like a strongbox or an essence at the very beginning of the map, the essence delirium fog will pause, so you may have to just hang back for a second just to make sure it's got time to go ahead. So I don't honestly read the altars, I just click minions, or if it turns up, if not, I click bosses. I don't worry too much. So here's our first essence, Shrieking Essence of Wrath. We kill, we move on. You don't really have to worry about killing everything. You will, by the time you get to the boss and kill all of the minions around him, get to 7 levels of rewards, which is what we're looking for, because the more rewards we can get, the more likely we are to get Deli Orbs. Also, with the passive tree that we take, you might have 4 or 5 delirium wards. That also means that you've got more chance of getting rewards. So if they are bad essences, purple ones, I'll corrupt. If not, I may consider not corrupting, because this is only 2. We'll corrupt it and see what happens. So nothing. I went to deafening, so better than nothing. So we'll take those. They're a decent chunk of money. They're probably like 13 to 14 siege, if not more. And here we go again, another essence monster. So we'll kill the essence monster. And we'll move on. Now, I have got a pretty tanky character, and it's died a couple of times on this where the deli hands have come up just at the same time as I crack open a massive essence monster. So it's not going to be a deathless level to 100 strategy for most characters. But I've leveled from like 91 up to 95. I think that's the first T1 currency I've had drop. Is that a headhunter? It is not. So we'll carry on. So we've got 5 levels of rewards. We basically need to have 6 when we kill the boss, and that's going to make sure we proc that extra line of rewards, which happens from the Atlas tree, which we'll go through in a moment. So we should be there now. We'll just kill these mobs just to make sure. And we'll go in, and you'll get tons of enemies in this bit, which is where you'll get up to your 6. So we'll go and find the boss. So there we go, 7 layers of reward, which is what we want. You can clean up these puddles if you want, but you don't really have to. So we'll just end that. And 2 delirium orbs. You can pick up these clusters if you want. They sell for like 5 to 10C. I just can't be bothered to sell them individually. So that's the strategy. So just from that very quick map, had 2 Deli Orbs, which are about 35 to 40 chaos each. So let's say 35 on the low side. So that's 70 chaos. These, not massive, but they add up once you get a full simulacrum. I think they're between 60 and 80C. You got Shrieking Essences of Wrath, which we have a look here. Let's say you had 15 and you were going to sell them in bulk. They're 6C each, so that's 12C added onto your 70. That's 82 chaos. Got Shrieking Essence of Anguish. They're going to be at least 4C. Basically, there are no essences that aren't worth money. And then Screaming Essence of Loathing, obviously not a lot. Forget about the Exalt. That's a very lucky drop. Shrieking Essence of Hatred, going to be about 3C. Deafening Essence of Envy, probably about 15 to 20 chaos. Essences are just crazy at the minute. So just from that simple map, we've got well over 100 chaos. And it took, even with me explaining, probably 2.5 minutes. And that's all you do. You just rinse and repeat. Now, like I've said, I have tried this in white maps, and these rewards seem the same. Simulacrum splinters you obviously get a lot less of, like you get to the end of Strand and you get like 5 splinters. But the way Deli Orbs work is you basically have percentage chance for mobs to drop them, but they very rarely do. Or you have percentages chance from the passive tree for these to be included in your rewards. And it doesn't look like this is scoured with map tier. I've done, just a test, I've only 10 white maps and I dropped 9 Delirium Orbs. In the 55 red maps I did, I dropped 53 orbs overall. So very small sample size, but it looks like it's going to be the same. So I think white maps, if you can sustain your Strand map and you've got a slightly weaker character, you can still earn a shed load of divines per hour doing this strategy. So let's cover off a really important aspect, and that is, when do you use your corruption essences? So there's essentially 3 different scenarios where I would use a corruption essence. What I'm going to do is put some maps in, find an example of each scenario and explain why I use them. So here's the first example of when I would use a corruption essences. Now most people look at this essence with just 3 essences and decide it's not worth it. If I see a Shrieking essence that's valuable and Wrath is, and any Screaming essences, I'm hitting that with a corruption essence because it has the possibility of upgrading the tiers. If it does, this Loathing moves to Shrieking. They're worth money on their own. But what Shrieking means is all your essences are duplicated. Your Shrieking gets upgraded to Deafening. You'll get 2 Deafening essences of Wrath from this alone. Even if this failed 10 times on average, which it won't, is still big profit. So let's go ahead and see what happens. And it did. It upgraded, which is exactly what we wanted. So now we have Shrieking, which will be duplicated, and this will be duplicated. So we'll just crack this essence open, and then we'll go and have a look at what value sits beneath it. So we won't worry about the Screaming for now. We'll just take these essences. So we've got 2 Deafening essences of Wrath, which is basically a 7th of a divine. Then we've got 2 Shrieking essences of Loathing, which together are 13 to 14 chaos. So just from that, we made a huge amount of profit, considering these are probably 1 to 2 chaos. So now we'll move on and we'll look for the second scenario that I look for. So we'll cover off the second and the third scenario in one. If you come across any purple essences, always corrupt them because they can turn into special essences. Where you look for a jackpot, which is this one, is have another Shrieking essence alongside it and a Screaming. So what would happen here if it just changed this to special essence? Is because we have the Shrieking essence of Rage, we get 2 of those. What it could also do is upgrade and change. So it could upgrade this to Deafening, it could change this to special, and it can change this to Shrieking. I wasn't aware this was a scenario, but I've had it happen a couple of times. Could possibly be a glitch, I don't know. But yeah, basically any purple you're corrupting, if it turns out that you've got another Shrieking with it, great, because you're going to get double special essences. The reason this one is twice as good is because we also have the original scenario here that we had in the first essence, that these could go to Deafening, this should go to Shrieking, then you get 2 Deafening essences of Scorn and 2 Deafening essences of Rage, which again are big money. So we'll see how we get on with this. And we had a very, very good scenario. It upgraded this to Essence of Horror, and it actually changed the Shrieking to Essence of Loathing, which is even more profitable. So from this essence alone, we're going to get 2 Essence of Horrors and 2 Shrieking essences of Loathing. So we'll crack this open. And again, we'll just pick up these ones. And we'll go and have a quick look again at their worth. So we have our Shrieking essences of Loathing that we've already looked at. These are like 6 or 7C. And then the Essence of Horror, if we have a look, are 8 or 7 for Divine. In terms of Chaos, 25 I would think. So again, from this essence monster, we got 72 to 74 chaos just by using this remnant of corruption. You can get lots where you bust and you don't get anything, but you will make a ton of profit by using them. You could use them on every single essence blind and you would still make a ton of currency, but there's obviously scenarios where you don't, like if they're just screaming essences or wailing essences, you're never going to use these remnants of corruption. There is one other scenario where I don't use it, and that is if it's just 2 or 3 shrieking essences, because the only real jackpot scenario is it upgrades them to deafening, but because they're all shrieking, they all get upgraded to deafening, which means you don't duplicate them. So is it worth using them when 1 deafening is really not that much more than 2 shrieking? You can do if you like, I just really don't think it's worthwhile. So the main scenarios I'm looking for corruptions, like I said, is screaming with shrieking to boost all of the tiers up, any purple essence. Jackpot would be purple essence with another shrieking with a screaming, because then it's got lots of different upgrade avenues to make you a lot of currency. I'll put this in bullet points in the video description, but that's kind of how I go about using my corruption essences. So we'll just run through the loot and why it's so profitable this league. And the simple explanation is this stuff doesn't drop in the mechanics that people are doing in the Wildwood. Everyone pretty much takes this keystone for Delirium, which is Unending Nightmare, which means your fog never disappears, so you always get those extra mobs, but you can't find Deli Orbs. If you put a Deli Orb on your map, same thing, Deli Orbs will not drop. So these are only going to drop from people that are running Deli Mirrors but don't have this keystone, and that's not a huge amount of people. Same with essences. No one's going to be putting essences into Wildwood because A, they're difficult, and B, to really get the most out of it, you need to use your map device, which means you're either not putting Beyond or an extra Abyss into your map, which is just crazy if you're doing that sort of mechanic. In terms of selling your loot, you can either go onto TFT and bulk sell it. It goes super, super easily. Just see what sort of percentage people are pricing it at. You will sell within minutes. But you can also sell it on trade. If you're not someone who likes to dabble with TFT or you just want to do it nice and simple, wait until you've got a decent chunk of Deli Orbs and sell them in bulk. What you can also do with the essences, if you have any harvest juices, you can re-roll them. So some essences are worth less money than others. So if you get ones at a very, very bottom of tier, so if we go in here and we'll have a look, if we take these, for example, Doubt, they're not worthless. Like all essences are worth currency, like you see 22 in bulk. But if it was something like Loathing, then they're 8 in bulk. So it's a massive difference. And there's lots that are worth money. All of the elemental essences are worth money, attack speed. There's enough that it's worthwhile re-rolling the bottom tier essences. So straight away it's gone to Zeal, which is definitely worth more. So these are, 13 or 12 for a Divine. So already you've made loads of money just from doing that tiny little switch. So we'll stick these back in. And then we'll just go and price check a couple of things. I won't go into TFT because people who know how to use that know how to use it. It's not an issue, but you don't need to learn how to use it to sell this loot. It's super easy. So again, you could re-roll these Deli Orbs if you want, but I probably wouldn't because they're pretty much all worth exactly the same other than Diviners and Scarab ones, and they're weighted. So just don't try and re-roll your Orbs. Just wait until you've got enough to sell in bulk for a Divine, or you can, like I say, go and use TFT and just sell them all. But realistically, this is what you do. You go in and essentially it looks like it's 6 for 1 Divine. But what if we had more stock? What if we did this strat for like 7 hours and we had 25 Deli Orbs? Are we going to be able to sell them for that amount? Because it looks like there was quite a few people listing at 6 for a Divine. So if we had 25, you can see it actually goes down to 5. So you should be comfortably be able to sell these for 6 Orbs for 1 Divine. So you're talking about 35C easily for 1 Delirium Orb, and you are getting about 1 a map. I won't go through bulk selling. I'll just link my video in the description. It's super, super easy to bulk sell. What you would do is farm for however long you want to, and then leave an hour at the end of the day to sell your loot. You just bulk price all your essences and your Deli Orbs, and then just sit in your hideout and wait for all the offers to come in. So this loot has changed slightly because I've obviously just added more to it, but we'll just go through the kind of loot that you're going to get. It's probably easier to do it in here. So the way I've done this is I've got a separate essence tab for the farming strategy, separate currency strat, and then just a dump tab where I'm putting stuff like Deli Orbs. So if we just look at Deli Orbs, for example, and we filter to Deli, you can see it prices them at about 20C, and they, as we can see, sell for 35 chaos. So this is massively underrepresented. So where it says 5.5 divines, it's probably closer to 9. And then if we go into the essence tab, you can see here that tab is worth 12 divines. And this is from, I would say now, probably 2.5 hours of farming, just doing scoured maps. So there's nothing out of the ordinary. The only thing I had drop, as I say, worth currency was this Sacred Grove. But you're going to get something drop at some point, whether it's a Divine Orb or a Memory, or you might get a puzzle box. So I don't think this is too unlikely. The fortune that's come from, at the beginning I dabbled with Doom maps but didn't like them as much, but you do have the chance of dropping these cards, but you know, they're worth less than a Deli Orb, so I wouldn't even class them as a good drop. You will get the odd cluster jewel, which will show as white on your filter because they're valuable. That is worth currency, so this projectile one for item level 84 is worth 60C, probably even more to be honest. And you just go through and have a look at exactly what sort of loot you're coming out with. I have put the spreadsheets in the video description, just if people wanted to have a real deep dive into how long I'm taking to do the maps, what currency drops, you know, what sort of Deli Orbs, how much you drop, and you wanted to do your own calculations, you can do. All I will say is, my character is very quick at doing these maps, and I died maybe 2 to 3 times through the whole playthrough, and I'm averaging between 2.25 to 2.5 minutes to do one map, and that includes stashing loot, loading in times, things like that. So if you take 1.5 times as long, you're obviously going to get less profit, but honestly, even if you're taking 3.5 minutes to do these maps, you're still going to be making really, really good currency. We'll quickly go through the Atlas tree, but I'll link it in the video description anyway to go through kind of my thinking behind everything. I don't touch this wheel because it makes it harder. We don't need the extra time. If anything, we still could outrun the fog even as quick as it is. These make it a lot harder because the more distance in the mirror you get, the harder mobs get, and this just intensifies that. I didn't really like it, and I don't find any of this brings any benefit unless you're going for simulacrum splinters. If you take all this wheel, you might end up getting 80 simulacrum splinters from a map, but it's much harder. You're at much risk of dying. If the essences are at the end, you're in real trouble. It's just not worth doing, so I don't take this wheel at all. So we take all of the Deli chance here. We take the left side of the wheel here to get more rewards. Ignore bosses, we don't care about them. Yes, they give you more chance to drop unique cluster jewels, but again, we don't really care about them. I'm only taking the first 3 nodes here. You can, if you want, take layers of delirium in a map, but again, I don't find it does a huge amount. We're taking the Deli Orb nodes here. This is probably the most important node. Imagine Pursuits. It basically gives you +1 to your rewards when you complete the map, so you kill the boss. So if you get to the boss and you've got 6 rewards, you kill him, it will go to 7. The reason you pick a linear map, because you want the boss to be at the end, because if you do it at the beginning, for example, and you've got 1 layer of rewards, it goes up to 2, which is about 20 mobs, but 6 to 7 might be 60 mobs. The later you kill the boss, the more this has an impact. And this, you could take it or leave it. Increase sizes of simulacrum splinters. If you wanted to take some more map nodes, you could do. We're blocking everything other than delirium, and then we're obviously taking all of the essence nodes. We're going left side around this wheel because you should be swimming in these if you've been doing essences. If you don't have any corruption essences, I'd probably stick right hand side, and then you can re-switch later on when you've got, say, 30 or 40 corruption essences. Taking all of the X-Art stuff, although in fairness, it doesn't really do that much. I don't think you'd be that wrong to just skip altars, but you obviously get things like Awakened Sextants, Grand Embers, and if they drop, they're worth picking up. We're taking both the X-Art nodes here for altar chance, and this one I think just helps. It gives you a little bit of extra progress towards your invitation. Just because I had the points of taking this middle wheel hill, but it really makes no difference since we're scouring the map, so you could definitely drop those. And then Stream of Consciousness to get more chance of content into your maps. So as I said, essences, you basically have a 95% chance to get an additional essence, and you get about 75% chance to get a Deli Mirror. So you're getting 2 essences from the map device, 1 from the tree, and on the majority of maps, you're getting a 4th. For 2 chaos, 2 essences is insane. Any Shrieking Essence pretty much is worth 4C. So you only have to find 1 Shrieking Essence in a map to double your money, and you know, you're corrupting essences at times to get multiple deafening essences. It's just silly money. I just want to quickly go through one amendment I've made to the tree. Because I'm buying maps and I'm running them scoured, some of the map nodes are not really needed because we don't care about sustain, and this quantum rarity, since we don't have any really on the maps, is going to do very, very little. I've also dropped simulacrum splinters because they don't make a huge amount of difference to the currency, and I've decided just to add Guardian maps in and then Conqueror maps in. Again, we're not doing anything with the maps, we're not getting any quantity or rarity, so I'm not sure whether these have much of an effect, but if you get an extra chance to drop a map that might be worth 15 to 30C, I think it's worthwhile doing. And this will be reflected in the final version that I'll link in the video description. So check prices, because I don't think things are going to change because I can't see people not running the league mechanic. But if you're fed up of it or you want something different, this at the moment is insane money. I think if I carried it on, I see no reason why I can't easily make 10 divines to 12 divines an hour doing this. But my character is quite quick, kills mobs fairly quickly, so you may have to rebalance depending on how quickly you could do the maps. I will say though, my character is totally scuffed. I'm still building it. It's not really doing very well for clear. It's just fairly quick across the ground, but nothing exceptional. So if you just had something like a lightning arrow deadeye, you'd probably be quicker than me, or just any clear speed build is going to do better than me as long as you can survive and kill the essences. I think that's it for the video. I'm going to do a test in white maps just to see if I can get the sustain going, because I do think even with losing the invitations and stuff, you're still going to be able to make 7 to 8 divines an hour quite comfortably. And there's nothing much more chill than running through a tier 3 map, collecting loads of currency. That's it for the video. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.